Welcome back guys, and today in this video we are going to look at the field which is required for setting the due date, how do we validate it, and a little bit of tweak in terms of how we can use accessors in our model to get that particular date in a required format. Okay, so let's get started. To start with, we already have a due date column in our database. This is something which we have already added in our migration. So if I go into my migrations file, you can see I have a date field which is due date. So I need to somehow be able to save it, right? So I'll expect a key as due date. Let's say for now it is required. It is going to be a date and the format is going to be YMD. So we are expecting the date in this particular format, which means we need to add that in our blade file. So I'm not going to do too much of UI level tweaks right now because I know that I'm going to change this entire form into a React component, and that's when I am going to use a good looking date picker. However, for now, we will get the Google Chrome's default date picker, which should work fine for us right now. So name is going to be due date. It doesn't need a placeholder. Hit refresh and we get this. All right. And we can see this default date picker coming into place. And why don't we do a die dump of the entire request? So we can see this is null, which is fine. I'll just set a date and we are getting this. So we have the basic date in place and we are, so what if I do dd post data, right? I should get that as well because after validation, post data is something which I'm going to be using, right? It failed in here, and that's why we couldn't reach to this point, which is strange. This is required. Our date format. Will this work? Oh, I think I know what's the problem. I don't think we need the date. Why don't we make this the first rule? Oh, no. We need to pass everything, only then we will get it right. So, refresh. This is my title, some description, user, date, and save. So fine, we are getting the entire data right now in our post data, right? So this is fine. In my story.php, guarded is empty, which means I can save the date and it is in YMD, which is very much what I want. So now that this is done, I should be able to, go into my controller. I have removed it. So let's try it now. I'll hit refresh, some new feature request. This is a demo feature request. I'll have two users, and let's say I want it by the 14th. Hit save. So it is here. We can validate it in our database. We are getting it. It's a feature, user ID 1, epic ID for now doesn't matter to us. The due date is 14th. So the next thing which we are going to do is let Laravel know that we have some date fields. So protected $dates. This is again an array, and I'll just have this. This will allow us to use this field with some date properties, and it will automatically create a carbon instance when we are loading the this story Eloquent model. Okay, but I have a requirement, which is, let's just say when I'm showing this created at and my due date, which I'm not doing right now. Let's first start showing the due date column. So I have created due date, right? And it is right here. So my due date and created at are very difficult to read. This is not the format which I want. And this is where we can use the Laravel's Eloquent accessors to beautify, or I will say modify, our string before it is presented to us as an Eloquent object, right? So we'll come over here into the model and we will add an attribute very similar to this. It's a get due date attribute. We'll get the value and we will need to modify it. Now we need to be very careful about the name, because my variable column name is due date. I can do this and this. Okay, that's why I have get due date attribute. If I return hi and refresh, I'll see this is everything is the same. Obviously we don't want this. We would rather have carbon parse $value, and I'll define the format. I know that I want this format. Okay, and if I hit refresh, so you can see I only have the data which is meaningful to me. I don't have the time, which I anyways don't want. I can also do something like this. It completely depends on how you want to present it, and all the date formats are supported in here, so you can play around with that. And I'll do the same thing for created at. All right, so that's how we can have this accessor working for us to beautify the content. And now we also have the date validation in place.